black boy sprinted toward the motorcycle club's booth in the festive air of the Henderson Veterans Fair, tears streaming down his sun-tanned face. "They took my grandfather," he cried out, his trembling hand pointing at a silver van speeding out of the parking lot. What the boy didn't know was that the men he was begging for help, bikers in leather jackets, faces hardened by sun and wind, hadn't been involved in trouble or fights for years. But for him, for the three words, "My grandfather's a veteran," they were about to break every rule they'd set to keep themselves out of trouble. The smell of popcorn, motor oil, and grilled meat hung thick in the late noon air at the Nevada festival. Eli Hawk Turner wiped sweat from his brow, flipping a sizzling burger on the smoky grill. The Silver Hawks MC logo on his leather jacket gleamed under the blazing sun. A dozen fellow bikers were running the food booth they'd volunteered for to raise funds for the local VA hospital. "Think the mayor's impressed?" Tommy Wrench Alvarez laughed, handing a lemonade to a wide-eyed kid staring at the glossy Harleys parked behind them. Hawk smirked slightly. "Don't care who's impressed. We do this for us, not them." It had been 3 years since the Silver Hawks left their rough past behind to become what Hawk called a brotherhood with purpose. They still wore their old colors, still rode with roaring pride, but now they escorted veteran funerals, held fundraisers, and showed up when the community needed strength for the right reasons. A group of kids crowded around Bear Delgado, a 6'5" giant with a silver beard and tattooed arms, patiently explaining the details of his customized softail. Their parents snapped photos, smiling instead of shying away. Progress. Marcus Bear Johnson, the road captain, jogged back from the parking lot, his tanned face pale. "Hawk, we've got a problem." Before Hawk could ask, a scream tore through the festival's noise. "Help! Somebody help!" Everyone turned. A black boy, about 10 years old, was sprinting toward them, his t-shirt smudged with dirt, sneakers caked in sand, tears soaking his cheeks. He stumbled, nearly face-planting if Wrench hadn't caught him. "Whoa, hey, you okay, kid?" Wrench asked, kneeling to his level. "What's wrong?" the boy gasped, his sobs breaking his words. They took my grandfather. He's a veteran." Hawk was at his side in 2 strides, the still-hot spatula dropping from his hand. "Who took your grandfather?" "When?" "Just now." The boy pointed toward the lot's edge. 2 men in black suits. They pushed him into a silver van. Bear cut in, his voice hardening. "Silver van. Tinted windows?" The boy nodded vigorously. "Had a logo on the back door. Valorade." Hawk's blood ran cold. He locked eyes with Bear, their glance saying enough. Every biker within earshot froze. Valorade, a name recently exposed on the news for skimming veterans' funds. "What's your name?" Hawk asked, his voice low. "Malik. Malik Carter." Hawk froze. "Carter. Sergeant Samuel Carter. The man who'd saved his father in a firefight in Fallujah. A true soldier." His fist clenched, an old urge rising, the kind that made a man who'd sworn off fighting know he was about to break that vow. Hawk knelt, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Listen to me, Malik. Your grandfather's a hero, and we don't let heroes get taken quietly." The boy nodded through his sobs. Malik, catching his breath, explained in a shaky voice. 2 men in black suits approached after the morning prayer service, claiming to be from a veteran support agency, saying they were sent to help Mr. Carter review his benefits paperwork. He trusted them, still wearing his old suit, just shaking hands with the pastor outside the church when they shoved him from behind. Before he could brace himself, one of the men opened the door of a silver Dodge van California plates and yanked him inside. Malik screamed, running after them. But the van roared off, tires skidding on gravel, kicking up dust before vanishing toward the highway. Hawk's usually calm face darkened as he listened. He glanced at his brothers standing ready silent. "Anyone who touches a soldier," Hawk said, his voice low but firm, "touches all of us." The words rang out amid the festival's lingering smell of oil and grilled meat, making every biker stand taller, their eyes meeting like they were back on old battle lines. Hawk raised a hand. "Split up. Alpha team pursues. Head toward I-215. Bravo stays, protects Malik, and contacts the police. Don't leave him alone." Bear nodded, tightening his leather gloves. Wrench pulled his helmet down. Malik still clung to Hawk's jacket, tears barely dry. "Please bring him home," the boy whispered, almost pleading. Hawk looked into his brown eyes, his gaze resolute. "I promise." He patted the boy's shoulder, then strode toward the row of waiting Harleys. With one nod, the men in black leather mounted up. Engines roared to life, each growl thundering like a storm in the Nevada Valley. Gray exhaust rose, mingling with the scent of burning gas, carrying away the morning's last shred of peace. Fairgoers looked up, kids covering their ears, American flags around the tents flapping in the hot wind. Hawk lowered his visor, glancing back at Malik, now shielded by Bear, a slight nod. Then he twisted the throttle. The Silver Hawks roared out of Henderson, leaving behind the fair's music and the lingering scent of grilled smoke, merging into the midday desert traffic on I-515. Hot wind lashed their faces like fire, sunlight glinting off the road, making the scene shimmer in the heat. Hawk led, the reflective visor on his helmet flashing like a blade slicing the sky. 12 Harleys rode in formation, engines roaring like a symphony of steel and fire. On his dashboard, a GPS screen tracked the silver Dodge van Malik described, spotted via traffic cameras at Henderson Exchange, heading toward Las Vegas Boulevard South. Hawk pressed the comm button on his collar, his voice cutting through the channel. Alpha, keep distance, don't crowd them. Bravo, cut through Boulder Highway, block if possible. Diesel, use your tracker to stay on that vehicle. Copy that, boss, Bear replied, his voice rough in the wind. The bikers split into 3 groups, weaving through thickening traffic as the sun hit its peak. Drivers gawked as the Silver Hawks tore past, leather jackets with silver wing logos, small American flags on antennas fluttering. Over the radio, Tyson Bear, Delgado's urgent voice crackled. Hawkeye saw the logo on the van's back door, Valorade Foundation. Hawk's jaw tightened, recalling the name from news reports, a veterans support group under investigation for siphoning millions in donations. Valorade, huh? Smells like dirty money, he muttered, anger and disgust in his tone. On the other end, Clutch gave a dry laugh. Those scumbags touched a veteran. They don't know they just lit the fuse to hell. Hawk twisted the throttle, his Harley Road Glide roaring. They trailed toward central Las Vegas, keeping just far enough to stay unnoticed. When Bear sent traffic cam footage to his phone, Hawk saw clearly a fake license plate, a Valorade decal on the back door, windows tinted black as mirrors, a kidnapper's vehicle disguised perfectly as charity. He radioed the police on an emergency frequency, but the dispatcher's voice was flat. We're verifying jurisdiction. Please don't take action. Hawk chuckled inside his helmet, a short, bitter sound. He knew jurisdiction meant no one was coming in time. Got it, he said softly. Guess Justice is still looking for a parking spot. A younger biker, Rico, new to the club last year, spoke up on the radio. Boss, what if they're armed? Hawk replied, calm but firm. Then we ride smarter, not louder. In the howling wind, the words rang like a command etched in steel. Hawk leaned low, wind whistling past, his heartbeat syncing with the engine. They weren't just chasing a van. They were chasing honor, something society sometimes forgot. The desert stretched on both sides, cacti glinting under the sun like upright spears. Ahead, Las Vegas's skyline shimmered faintly in the heat, while on the highway the Silver Hawks sliced through traffic, past trucks and tourists, their engines' roar echoing like war drums. Hawk glanced at his speedometer. They were pushing over 90 miles an hour, the gap to the silver van down to just over a mile. Bear, report position. Southbound near Sunset Road exit. Van's holding steady, they haven't spotted us. Hawk inhaled deeply, the smell of exhaust and hot sand filling his nose. All right, brothers. Let's show Valorade what real loyalty looks like. He cranked the throttle, his Harley surging forward, the engine's roar blending with the desert sun. Behind him, 11 engines thundered in unison, a wave of steel crashing down the blazing boulevard. Across the city, in the rundown North Vegas industrial zone, an abandoned food transport warehouse stood stark in the barren land, its broken windows reflecting the harsh sun. Inside, the air was icy, exhaled from long-dead refrigeration units, turning the place into a frigid glass cage. Samuel Carter, 78, was bound tightly to a metal chair in the damp warehouse, his hands trembling not just from age but from the cold seeping into his bones. He still wore the gray suit from church, his tie torn, a faded Bronze Star medal pinned to his chest, a relic of his Vietnam service. 2 men in black suits stood before him, one flipping through a file, the other tapping a metal baton rhythmically on the concrete floor. Mr. Carter, the crew-cut man said, his voice oily. Do you know you just signed your death warrant, sending those documents to the FBI? You think they'll protect you? Samuel raised his head, his cloudy eyes still defiant. Protect me? I don't need protecting. I just want the truth seen, the other man sneered, holding up a paper. The truth? This truth? Missing donations, accounts routed to the Cayman Islands. You think Valorade doesn't know how to cover tracks. You can fool the world, but you can't erase guilt, Samuel said hoarsely, his breath misting in the cold air. That money isn't yours. It's for crippled soldiers, men without legs to work, mothers waiting for letters from the battlefield that never came. I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid this country's forgetting us. His words barely finished when the baton swung down, another fist slamming into his cheek, drawing blood. The red trickle stained his bronze star, spreading like rust on old metal. Samuel tilted his head, spat blood on the floor, lips pressed tight, eyes unyielding. Enough, the baton wielder said. He's not saying more. The other closed the file, his voice cold as steel. You'll sign a retraction of your accusations. If not by morning, your body's in the desert, untraceable. We don't kill veterans, but we don't save them either. He leaned close, his breath reeking of cheap tobacco. You were a hero once. Now you're just a target. The ceiling light flickered, a faint electric buzz sounding. Samuel scanned the vast warehouse, hearing only dripping water from a broken pipe above and wind whistling through door cracks. In the distance, a patrol helicopter's hum faded away. In the flickering bluish-white light, the bound old man seemed a shrunken symbol of what the nation once honored, but now forgot. He closed his eyes, not in fear but in memory. Explosions in Da Nang, fallen comrades, a tattered flag over his shoulder. When he opened them, his gaze was sharper than the steel around him. You can kill me, he said slowly, his raspy voice echoing in the cold warehouse. But the truth's already out. The two men exchanged a glance, a flicker of worry, then a dismissive laugh to mask their fear. Old man talks too much. Another fist struck. The light flickered again, going dark for seconds before flaring back, leaving only Samuel Carter's heavy breathing in the silent space. Outside, the sun was setting, casting a harsh orange glow over North Vegas, and the distant helicopter still circled, the system watching but doing nothing. The Silver Hawks pulled into a small suburban gas station, their Harleys still scorching under the midday sun, exhaust mingling with the smell of dry sand and sweat. Malik, exhausted, was taken to rest in a patrol car by a social worker and a local officer, clutching his grandfather's baseball cap. Hawk leaned against a pump, opening a tablet mounted on his handlebars, its screen glaring in the sunlight. Data from Diesel tracking via traffic cameras had just come in the silver van's license plate. He zoomed in, reading the faint text below. LCL Logistics, a food transport company based in North Vegas. A quick search revealed it was bought 6 months ago by Valorade Foundation. His pulse quickened. His hunch was right. Valorade, the fake charity suspected of laundering money through veterans' funds, was directly tied to the kidnapping. He gritted his teeth, dialing an old contact. Sarg, Luis Rivera, a former Marine buddy now with Homeland Security investigations. The call connected after a few rings, her Western drawl coming through. Turner, been a while since I heard your name. I'm guessing this isn't a social call. Hawk replied dryly. A veteran's been taken, name's Samuel Carter. Van belongs to Valorade. Silence hung for a moment, then Rivera said quietly, You don't want to mess with Valorade. I'm serious. They've got state-level protection, even people in the government. You're poking a hornet's nest. Hawk glanced at the bikes lined up in the sun, his brothers wiping sweat, waiting for orders, and recalled Malik's terrified eyes. Lou, he said slowly, I'm not looking for justice on paper. I'm looking for a grandfather. Rivera sighed, the sound heavy with resignation. You're still the same, Turner, years later, and you still don't know how to back down. He heard rapid typing on her end. Fine, I'll send the van's GPS data. It's got an internal tracker, but if I'm asked, I'll say I was hacked. Got it. Got it, Hawk said, a rare warmth in his voice. And Lou, thanks. Get him out, and get clear of this mess, you hear? She hung up. Hawk studied the tablet, a red dot moving slowly on the map toward the North Las Vegas industrial zone, a deserted sprawl of warehouses and container yards, perfect for hiding someone no one would find. He zoomed in, marking the shortest desert route. Bear, he called. Rally the team. We've got coordinates. Bear fired up his bike, the engine's roar answering. Rico frowned, asking, What if the cops tell us to stand down? Hawk pulled on his helmet, lowering the visor, his voice rough as steel on sand. Then we don't need them. A soldier's been taken, and no one cares, so we will. He stowed the tablet in a leather bag, swung onto his saddle. Let's go, Silver Hawks, he said, into the comm. Time to bring a hero home. Engines roared in unison. dust swirling thickly, and as the convoy merged onto the northbound road, the sun tilted, glinting off their black helmets like ancient warriors reborn in peacetime. Above, a hawk circled, symbol of freedom and loyalty, while below the silver hawks accelerated toward North Vegas's industrial zone, where Valorade's shadow awaited. The silver hawks roared through the barren desert road, a blood-red sun hanging low in the west, the scorched asphalt shimmering with heat haze like smoke. The wind began to pick up, swirling fine sand like powder around the tires. Hawk led, his glossy black Harley slicing through the air, the engine's roar blending with the howling wind like a symphony of war and freedom. Behind him, 11 Harleys strung out in an endless line, headlights piercing the dust cloud, illuminating the strips of American flags lashed to the rear seats, flapping wildly. Suddenly, the horizon ahead darkened. A massive wall of sand was barreling toward them, rolling like a gigantic ocean wave about to swallow the entire convoy. "Sandstorm," Bear yelled over the radio, his voice mixed with the whistling wind. Hawk leaned low, gripping the handlebars tight, eyes squinting behind dust-fogged lenses. "Hold formation. 10-yard intervals. Don't break line," he shouted into the comm, his voice like thunder. Seconds later, the world plunged into a murky red haze of dirt and dust. Sand lashed their necks raw, wind screaming through helmets like it wanted to shred eardrums. Hawk could barely see anything beyond the faint taillight of Bear ahead, feeling only the engine's roar, the sole sound tethering them amid the chaos. Over the radio came Bear's gravelly voice. "Hawk, remember Fallujah? Sand like this, I thought we were back there." Hawk chuckled softly, though grit clogged his throat. "Different, Bear. This time we're not saving squad mates. We're saving the man who taught us to live right." Those words rang out in the wind, etching into the mind of every rider cutting through the red desert. Sand enveloped them like a sea of fire, but no one faltered. They hunched low, clinging to the bars, tires plowing straight into the gale, carving a path through the ferocious storm. Over 20 minutes later, the wind began to die down, sand falling like dusty rain. The sun emerged through the haze, golden light pouring down, making the bikers look like they'd stepped from a legendary film reel. Leather jackets coated in red dust, visors fogged with sweat, but eyes fierce behind the lenses. Hawk raised his head, far off through the lingering grit. Faint golden flickers winked, the glow of industrial lights spilling from an old warehouse complex. Right on the coordinates, Rivera sent. "We're here," Hawk said quietly, his voice hoarse but steady. He raised a hand, fingers splayed then clenched, a signal for silence. The convoy instantly throttled down, engines fading to a hush, then cutting off completely. Only the light wind sweeping over rock faces and the crunch of gravel remained. Hawk removed his visor. Scanning ahead, lay a dilapidated warehouse compound, rusted metal doors, concrete walls scarred with graffiti. A single bulb hung at the gate, flickering incessantly like the faint breath of a forgotten place. He signaled with hand gestures, 2 fan right, 2 circle left, Bear hold center with the main group. Hawk whispered into the radio, "Kill engines, approach silent." Engines died in unison, plunging the space into an eerie quiet. They pushed the Harleys forward yard by yard, tires rolling slow over dry gravel, a faint hiss rising like sand whispering underfoot. Hawk pulled a small flashlight, flashing 3 times clear signal. The beam reflected off the warehouse's broken windows, where old man Samuel Carter might be held. Sand still drifted lightly in the air, tinting everything red. Hawk knelt, hand brushing the fine earth, feeling cold radiating from ahead. In the heavy air reeking of iron and dust, he whispered over the radio, "This is it, where honors locked up," and one by one, the leather-clad figures bearing Silver Hawk's patches slipped silently toward the dim lights like ghosts of justice returning to the desert. Hawk signaled 3 to follow, Bear, Wrench and Rico, to advance with him along the wall of the old warehouse, heavy footsteps trying not to make a sound. The weak yellow glow from the dangling gate bulb flickered relentlessly, illuminating cracked walls and thick rust on the metal door. Hawk crouched, fingers sliding lightly over the lock, old and untouched. No fresh signs, they hadn't expected anyone. He signaled Bear eased the door ajar, hinges creaking dryly enough to make the group hold their breath for seconds. Inside, dark and cold, smelling of iron, grease, and something rank. They moved down a hallway piled with old crates, moldy food boxes, and splintered pallets, hearing only wind whistling through corrugated roof gaps. Hawk halted at a faint sound from afar, a metal clink on floor, then a weak, raspy cough. He signaled the 3 fanning out, hugging the direction of the noise. "Anyone there?" Bear whispered. "It's me." A trembling voice answered from the dark. Hawk strained his eyes, spotting the gaunt figure bound to an iron chair in the vast room. Samuel Carter, head slumped, face swollen and bruised, suit rumpled. As Hawk stepped forward, a shout rang out. "You damn bikers!" Simultaneously, light flashed, gunshot cracking, bullet grazing the metal wall in a spray of sparks. Hawk rolled aside, diving into cover. Bear snatched a crowbar from the floor, hurling it to knock the gun from the guard's hand. Hawk lunged, dropping him with a lightning-fast strike, arm choking the neck, knee pinning the shoulder, then stripping the gun and wrenching the wrist back. The man groaned, spitting curses. "He's just a lookout," Hawk said softly, barrel pressed to the enemy's temple. But not the last. Outside, sirens wailed, flashing blue-red lights reflecting through grimy windows. Not cops but Valorade vehicles. "They called backup," Wrench said, peering through a wall crack. "We gotta pull out fast." Hawk rushed to Samuel, slicing the bonds with his pocket knife, gently helping him up. The old man hacked, clutching Hawk's arm, voice raspy and broken. "One more guy. He's got the hard drive. All the data, money laundering evidence." Hawk eyed Bear, signaled, "Get him to the bikes." "What about the drive?" Rico asked, glancing out as engines approached. Hawk shook his head. "No time. Not enough manpower." Bear hoisted Samuel over his shoulder. Wrench cleared the path. Rico covered rear. Alarms blared from upstairs, red lights strobing wildly. Hawk raised the seized gun, shooting out a light to create shadow, then signaled retreat. They bolted down the hall, shadows smearing on walls through dust smoke. A bullet grazed Rico's shoulder. He gritted teeth, keeping pace. The back door appeared in the flashing light. Wrench kicked it open, desert air rushing in like a freeing gale. Hawk spun, firing 2 warning shots, echoes booming in the metal space, halting pursuers for seconds. "Mount up," he barked. Bear settled Samuel on the back of his Harley Touring, wrapping a leather jacket around his shoulders for warmth. Hawk scanned, oriented, then twisted the throttle. The 4 bikes roared, rear tires kicking sand, blasting from the warehouse amid strobing alarm lights. From afar, black SUVs charged, but dust and headwind kept them from closing. Hawk glanced back, seeing Valorade lights fade in the night. Sand haze. Samuel wheezed, eyes half closed. Not just grabbing me. They kill too. Anyone who knows the truth." Hawk gripped his shoulder, voice firm. "No one touches you again, you hear." As they veered off the main road into Henderson suburbs, city neon glowed distantly like a hazy promise of safety. The Silver Hawks pulled up at Rosie's Garage, an old repair shop tucked in a quiet neighborhood. Once their clubhouse in rougher years, the rusted roll-up door lifted, spilling scents of oil and old metal. Hawk led them in, laying Samuel on a torn leather sofa. Diesel, who'd stayed behind, rushed out with water and antiseptic. Hawk sat by the old man, peeling off gloves, wiping blood from his forehead with a damp cloth. Samuel opened his eyes, voice faint as a breeze. "They got the hard drive. It's got everything. If you get it, you can prove the truth." Hawk met his gaze, eyes stern but softening. "Right now, you need to live. The rest is on us." Bear bolted the garage door. Outside, distant vehicles faded. In Rosie's garage, the wall clock ticked, dim neon glinting off a weathered wooden sign. Faded silver. Silver Hawks. Ride for those who can't. Hawk looked up at the motto, fist clenched. Samuel reclined in the chair at Rosie's garage, breathing steadier but voice still rough as desert wind. Hawk and the brothers gathered round. Bear set steaming black coffee on the table. Diesel fired up the wall-mounted TV, static humming in the quiet night. "You should rest more, old-timer," Wrench said. But Samuel shook his head, eyes sharp as one who'd stared down danger. "No, I gotta talk. Before they come back," he gasped, then began, voice slow and heavy. "Valorade's no charity. They stole tens of millions from veterans' funds, folks losing homes, jobs, believing they'd get help. They faked records, funneled cash through transport companies, laundered it via food shipping contracts. But that's just the tip. The rest," he paused, eyeing Hawk. "They traffic weapons, old military stock guns, sold to domestic terrorists and across borders." The room went dead silent. Bear gripped his mug till it cracked. "Who'd you send that to?" Hawk asked, voice gravelly. "Justice Department," Samuel replied. "Sent all evidence, backups, emails, financials. Trusted them. But someone inside sold me out. Week later, tailed today, snatched." He gave a bitter laugh. dry as rolling stones. They don't just want silence, they want the past erased. Hawk was quiet a long beat, eyes fixed on neon reflection rippling across the oil-stained table, weighing reason against instinct. Why not leave? Stay quiet and live easy? Samuel turned, meeting his gaze with eyes that had seen bombs and betrayal. Cause silence lets evil live longest, he said firmly. Stay quiet, you're complicit. Hawk inhaled deep, like the words struck his core. He leaned in, Collier's hand on the veteran's shoulder. If the law won't protect you, he said, voice dropping like an engine revving to life, we will. The group nodded. No more words, but all knew the line between right and wrong had blurred. On TV, a special report cut in, North Vegas warehouse footage, yellow crime scene tape gleaming under cop lights. Reporter's voice. Gunfire erupted at North Las Vegas industrial site. Police say unidentified biker gang attacked Valerade Foundation facility, now considered armed and dangerous. The room froze. Good, Bear growled. Now we're criminals. Hawk stood approaching the TV, staring at bullet scars they'd left, a mix of bitterness and rage. They call us criminals, 'cause we won't stand still, he said, eyes locked on screen. We touched what they want to bury. Media, they just say what's allowed. Wrench slammed the table. So now what? Hide. Hawk shook his head, eyes blazing like fire. No, hiding admits we're wrong. Truth doesn't hide. It gets seen. He turned to Samuel. Any other copies? One hard drive. Hid it in the old church, under the wooden altar behind St. Michael's statue, Samuel whispered, then hacked. Hawk nodded. Then we get it. But this time not sneaky. Bear frowned. What's that mean? Hawk clenched his fist, voice steel hard. Valerade uses media light to hide crimes. We'll use that light to expose him. Diesel eyed him, TV glow in his eyes, smirking faintly. You mean drag the truth into the spotlight, literally. Hawk nodded. If they want the world seeing bikers as criminals, let the world see who the real thieves are. Outside, a truck rumbled past, dust swirling into the garage's dim light. Samuel eyed Hawk, voice soft but sure. You ain't scared? Up against the whole system? Hawk gave a weary smile. Lost too many brothers in wars called justice. This time I want to see if justice is still alive. Hawk sank into the torn armchair in Rosie's garage, the small hard drive on the table between them like a cold fireball. Neon light casting faces in sharp wrinkles and scars. He opened a map, zooming the Nevada-Arizona border, eyes locking on the new bridge spanning the Colorado. Mike O'Callahan. Pat Tillman Memorial Bridge, a steel and concrete marvel. Tall, majestic symbol of civic might and national vision. That'd be where they'd force Valerade to show or face public light's consequences. We stage a fake exchange, Hawk said, voice cold as tempered steel. Rick Coleman'll sign a phony retraction. Valerade plays along to grab that proof doc. They gotta bring the drive to verify they're keeping their word. We just let it play out on camera. Bear watched, eyes worried but trusting. Diesel listed steps on his tablet, helmet live streams, online platform links, hidden invites to local press, scripts for bridge end blocks and safe spots for Rick and Samuel. Hawk assigned roles clear. Alpha blocks city bridge entrance. Bravo holds dam side end. Charlie coordinates press and crowds. Special team secures Rick and guards Samuel. You sure about stirring a storm? Young Rico asked, half joking, half fearful of legal fallout dragging them deeper. Hawk met his gaze unsmiling. No, I don't want to stir a storm. I want to blow away the fog hiding truth, he explained. No violence. Make it so public Valerade can't refuse showing up or docs without self-incriminating. Every move filmed multi-angle helmet cams to Diesel's drones, pre-invited indie reporters. If Valerade goes violent, nation sees. Hawk made calls non-stop, dropping names carrying weight. Patriot Riders in Tucson, Iron Legacy from Phoenix, Combat Vets, MC from Reno, clubs that had escorted vet coffins, marched for veterans. He stated the cause plain, asked one thing, show as witnesses, not provocateurs. His words command and brotherhood invite. If you come, no colors, no titles, just concerned Americans. Responses, brief silences, then flood of yeses. Jacks from Devil's Disciples, usually gruff, warmed. We're there to stand with the courageous. Hawk reached Sergeant Louise Rivera. She couldn't join openly, but agreed to anonymous GPS data and emails to indie journalists. She trusted, not bought. Diesel set secure stream channels, backup servers against shutdowns. They locked time noon tomorrow. Peak light and traffic, making it hard for Valerade to claim ambush. Exchange script built meticulous. Rick shows with fake signed retraction. Valorade sees returning Jamal. Sorry, the drive proves their deal. Hawk knew it was a gamble. If Valorade pulls no show, they're publicly cornered. If armed, it's all recorded, blasted instantly to press networks and indie law enforcement. Rivera pushed. Malik, eyes alight at the map and machine chatter, sat in the garage corner, glued to Diesel's makeshift screen. The boy said softly but firm, "I wanna come." Hawk gripped his hand, call used palm tight. "Tomorrow you'll see Grandpa free," he promised. Not empty comfort, but vow. Hawk knew broken promises scarred body and soul. That evening they called more. A local ex-TV reporter agreeing to witness on bridge, student journalist hired for phone cams with GPS. Even locals convinced this wasn't Honor Thieves' show to testify. Hawk mapped safe approaches. Fake ambulance near bridge, guarded by bikers posing medics. Private legal quietly lined a human rights lawyer for lawsuits. If Valorade sued, every contingency weighed to hold moral high ground. Cause Hawk knew soldiers needed not quick wins, but integrity's foundation. As night fell, Rosie's garage buzzed with laptop glow and typing. All prepped cables, spare batteries, live scripts, emergency contacts. Hawk sat by Samuel, watching the old man breathe easier, then turned to brothers. "Tomorrow we don't just save one. We show the nation when law's bought, the public can light the way." In that moment, amid grease, dry laughs, and cold grilled sandwich smells, old vets and rookies, battle-hardened and fiery young, silently pledged, bring light to darkest spots. And if needed, make that light the deadliest weapon. The night before the confrontation, Nevada's sky glowed with the molten bronze of a lingering sunset. Desert wind sweeping through Rosie's garage, carrying dry heat and the scent of old iron. Hawk sat outside, back against an oil drum, eyes tracing the neat row of Harleys reflecting faint yellow lamplight like silent warhorses awaiting battle. In the stillness, only the faint clink of metal stirred by the breeze and the lingering smell of gasoline hung in the air. He inhaled deeply, feeling cold creep into his chest, his mind racing through tomorrow's possibilities. Valorade arriving with armored SUVs, police blocking the bridge, or worse, blood spilled before TV cameras. But Hawk knew there was no turning back. Behind him, the garage door opened, warm light spilling out, illuminating Samuel Carter's weathered but resolute face. Draped in an old army jacket Bear had found, he walked slowly, but his eyes burned clear. "Can't sleep?" His voice rasped steady. Hawk gave a faint smile. "Forgot how to sleep since Iraq." Samuel sat beside him, gazing at the bikes, his voice low, as if speaking to his past. "Tomorrow, millions will watch. Don't let them think bikers just destroy. Show them bikers protect." Hawk turned, seeing in those aged eyes the fire of battlefields, a flame of someone who'd lost everything but never faith in what's right. "You're right," Hawk replied, voice quiet but steel hard. "Tomorrow's not about winning, it's about showing justice still breathes." Inside the garage, Bear checked radios, Diesel charged drone batteries, and Malik, the smallest in the lineup, sat on a chair, hugging Rosie, the old dog the garage was named for. He stood as Hawk entered, holding a small object wrapped in cloth. "Uncle Hawk," Malik said, voice trembling slightly, "this is Grandpa's. He says it brings luck." He unwrapped it, revealing an old marine pin, edges scratched, silver dulled but bearing a proud eagle and anchor. Hawk stared long, his rough hand taking it with reverence. "I had one like this once," he said. "Lost it in Fallujah." Malik looked up, brown eyes bright in the lamplight. "Now you've got this one. Grandpa said it brought him home. It'll help you too." Hawk closed his hand around the pin, feeling metal's cold seep into his skin, then pinned it to his leather jacket under the Silver Hawks logo. He gave a slight nod, a faint smile, eyes blazing like fire in the night. "Thanks, kid," he said, "but we don't need luck, just faith." Malik pursed his lips, then grinned, a childlike smile mixed with maturity Hawk rarely saw. The boy hugged Rosie, burying his face in her fur, shedding small worries. Samuel watched from the doorway, voice trembling. "Tomorrow, whatever happens, know you're not saving me, Hawk. You're saving a promise this country forgot." Hawk stood, stepping to him, hand on the old man's shoulder. "We're doing it together, Mr. Carter." Outside, wind blew harder, carrying sand like mist, tapping the Harley's faded paint. Hawk approached the bikes, hand resting on his Road Glide's gas tank, palm dusty but warm. Each scratch, each burn mark held memories, rides, lost friends, near-death moments. He touched the pinned emblem, feeling a sacred promise beyond law or politics. Inside, the other bikers lay on the floor, helmets as pillows, neon light flickering. The radio played a late-night report. Tomorrow Valor Raid will hold a public press conference at Hoover Dam to prove their innocence. Bear switched it off, eyeing Hawk, right on their schedule. Hawk only nodded, silent. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat amid oil and heat, eyes on the faint dawn horizon, where tomorrow they'd redefine justice. Noon blazed, Nevada's sun pouring fire onto the gleaming concrete of the Mike O'Callahan, Pat Tillman Memorial Bridge, spanning Hoover Dam where the Colorado River's deep green curved through desert cliffs. Engines roared like thunder as hundreds of bikers from across states converged, leather jackets bearing varied club logos but united by black armbands on their left arms, symbols of solidarity for those who'd served, lost, and still believed in honor. Hawk stood mid-bridge, Silver Hawk's jacket flapping in the wind, eyes squinting under glaring sun, facing three black Valorade SUVs approaching, their tinted windows reflecting light like cold predator eyes. Below, the Colorado flowed silent, deep and strong. Above, two news choppers circled, cameras panning the scene millions would soon watch live. Alpha report position, Hawk said into the radio. South Bridge locked, boss, Bear replied. Bravo ready to block Arizona side. Good, Hawk said. Eyes fixed on the SUVs halting dozens of yards away. A door opened. A middle-aged man stepped out, dressed in an expensive black suit, shades gleaming. Nathan Pike, Valorade Foundation CEO who'd used slick words to scam thousands of trusting veterans. He eyed Hawk, a smirk curling. Playing hero, are we? Pike said, voice smooth and cold, his lapel mic catching every word. Hawk removed his helmet, gaze calm and resolute. No, he replied, voice carrying across the bridge. Just doing what's right. Pike sneered. What's right? You think live streaming some beat-up bikes and your dusty biker crew will change anything? Hawk didn't answer, just pressed a helmet button. Camera flicked on, his feed streaming live via Diesel's channel, hundreds of thousands watching instantly. A red icon flashed. Live. If you're so clean, let the country hear, Hawk said, voice firm. Pike frowned, signaling burly bodyguards in suits, earpieces and visible sidearms. Don't be stupid, Turner, he said. Drop the camera, talk private, there's still a way out. Hawk tilted his head. Heard that in Iraq, he said softly. From a guy like you. Wind rose, an American flag on the bridge rail snapping, sunlight blazing through it. Pike smirked, gesturing a man behind him forward with a black briefcase. Here's the deal, he said. Carter signs this. Valorade goes transparent like you want. If not, we've got other ways to shut him up. Helicopter rotors whirred. Camera shutters clicked relentlessly. Then from afar, Harley engines roared in unison. Over 200 bikes fired up, the sound merging into an earthquake rippling the bridge, shaking air, scattering crows from the canyon below. Pike flinched, his guards instinctively reaching for guns, but Hawk raised one finger. Bikers behind revved in sync, holding throttle, creating a deafening boom like artillery in the sky. The roar drowned all threats. Pike shouted, unheard. Hawk stood still, leather flapping, sunlight glinting off Malik's old Marine pin on his chest, shining like a sworn oath. At the bridge's far end, Malik clung to his mother's hand, eyes wide, heart pounding, watching Hawk and bikers face the black-suited men in noon's glare. Samuel Carter sat in a makeshift ambulance, peering through a cracked window, aged eyes teary. Grandpa, will they be okay? Malik asked, voice soft as wind. Maria, his mom, didn't answer, just squeezed his hand. On the bridge, Pike yelled into his radio, get cops here, lock the bridge, I'll sue them all. But from the choppers, a reporter's voice cut into the live feed. We're witnessing an unprecedented standoff between Valorade and hundreds of bikers claiming to protect a veteran. This is going global. Hawk spoke into his lapel mic, straight to camera. Valorade, this is your last chance to tell the truth. If not, the truth speaks for itself. Pike laughed, threatening me on national TV. No, Hawk said, just showing everyone who's shaking. As if on cue, Harley engines thundered again, like clear sky lightning. Bikers from across America, Patriot Riders, Combat Vets MC, Iron Legacy, Night Wolves, lined the bridge, helmets reflecting harsh light. A living steel wall of unyielding veteran spirit. Reporters jostled for shots, curious drivers on the highway peered down, and millions on livestream flooded comments. Pike scanned around, realizing he'd lost narrative control. He tried staying calm, adjusting his tie, but sweat beaded his forehead. Turner, he said, voice lower, you don't know what you're doing. This is a big boy's game. Hawk tilted his head. Buried friends in Fallujah. Picked up squad mates' bodies in burning sand. Big boys game? I've played it my whole life. A strong gust swept through, stirring fine dust. Chopper noise droning above. And in millions lenses, Hawk Turner standing alone on Hoover Dam's blazing bridge, facing a suited power broker, became a symbol of what all understood. Sometimes, justice needs no courtroom to be declared. The air on Hoover Dam thickened as negotiations began. Thousands watching via live stream, hundreds of reporters crowding behind temporary barriers, wind and chopper noise blending into a backdrop for a moment long remembered. Hawk stepped back, letting Samuel Carter advance. The frail old man leaned on a cane, each step heavy with memory, gray suit frayed at the shoulders, bronze star medal dull on his chest. The bridge fell silent. He raised his head, staring at Nathan Pike yards away, voice trembling but sharp as steel on stone. You stole the honor of those who fought, stole the trust of those who lost too much to keep this country safe. Today honor's here to collect its debt. Wind lashed the rail, an American flag soaring against blue sky. Pike sneered, signaling a guard beside him. The man's hand slid to his belt, drawing a gleaming pistol, aimed at Hawk and Samuel. Enough of this cheap drama, Pike said. A collective gasp rose from the crowd. Hawk raised a hand, signaling bikers to hold. Eyes locked on Pike. Before tension could break, a piercing police siren wailed from the bridge's end. Then a second, a third, sounds rippling along concrete like justice arriving on time. Dozens of reporters surged forward, cameras and phones raised, lenses flashing. Hawk leaned to his lapel mic, words clear. Now the whole country's watching. Pike froze, sweat rolling down his temple. He saw dozens of cameras fixed on him, capturing him, aiming at a 78-year-old veteran. Wind hissed, then a giant screen on a local news van flashed. Breaking leak. Valorade internal emails released. Somewhere, in a safe office hundreds of miles away, Sergeant Louise Rivera typed her final command. Sending Valorade's internal data, emails, wire invoices, bribery proof, straight to national press networks. On live stream, reporters' phones buzzed, screens flooding with headlines. Scandal Valorade exposed. Federal investigation confirmed. Pike glanced around, seeing his guards falter, one dropping his hand from his gun. Hawk stepped forward, light glinting on his face, voice booming through the mic like judgment. No place left to hide, Pike. The country knows. Two choices: drop the gun, or become greed's exposed poster boy. Pike staggered, hand trembling, eyes darting as Diesel's drone camera hovered, catching every move. An endless minute passed, then a metallic click. Pike dropped the gun, clanging on the bridge with an echoing ring. The other guard raised hands in surrender. Bikers behind roared, cheers blending with engines firing in unison like a victory chorus. Federal agents arrived, patrol cars screeching to the rail, 4 officers rushing to cuff Nathan Pike, before dozens of cameras. A reporter yelled, "What's he charged with?" Federal fraud, money laundering, kidnapping, and betraying America's trust. Hawk said, voice carrying through the mic, eyes on the camera. Pike was dragged off, head bowed, tie disheveled, camera flashes popping like gunfire. At the bridge's far end, Malik stood with his mom, small hand gripping hers. He saw Hawk turn, raising a hand toward them. A slight nod, signal it was over. Malik smiled, tears rolling as he saw his grandpa, cane in hand, standing tall among bikers, sunlight glinting gold off his chest metal. American flags waved in hot wind, hundreds of Harleys roaring again, not in defiance, but celebration. Engines drowned sirens, drowned media noise, leaving only a pulse like a nation still bowing to truth. Hawk stood watching the Colorado flow below, water reflecting glaring sun like fire. In his eyes, desert smoke, dust, and sand melded with memories of fallen squadmates. He gripped Malik's Marine pin, whispering, "We did it, brother," then turned, walking through bikers' cheers, raising fists to a veteran who'd reclaimed honor for all the forgotten. 3 days after the Hoover Dam standoff, America erupted in an unprecedented wave of emotion, from CNN to Fox News to local channels. Headlines blared, "Biker Army saves veteran, exposes corruption." Images of Hawk Turner on the sunlit bridge, beside hundreds of bikers and an old veteran with a cane, became a new justice symbol, not laws but the kind alive in human hearts. The live stream hit over 15 million views in 2 days. Valorade, a textbook case of greed exposed to light. Samuel Carter, recovering at the VA hospital, received a supplemental Medal of Honor from the Veterans Affairs, not just for wartime bravery, but for daring to face betrayers of the ideals he fought for. The ceremony was simple but solemn. Samuel stood in the hall, new medal gleaming beside his old bronze star, Malik, Maria, and a row of leather-clad bikers behind him. As he bowed for the medal, applause rang unending. The host invited Malik to speak. The 10-year-old's voice rang clear through the mic, confident and innocent, silencing the room. "My grandpa says honor never retires, and neither does kindness." A pause, then thunderous applause echoed, lingering like distant Harley engines. Media seized the phrase, making it a viral headline. Kids wrote school essays on kindness that never retires. Biker clubs nationwide relaunched campaigns for poor veterans, inspired by Silver Hawks. Hawk Turner and his crew were invited to a late-night talk show, reporters dubbing them Guardians on Two Wheels. In the live interview from Rosie's garage, camera lights lit the faded wooden sign behind them, "Ride for those who can't." The host asked Hawk, "Should bikers be cops after all you've done?" Hawk laughed, shaking his head. "No," he said, voice steady as a Harley's rumble. "We don't want to be cops. We just want to remind them. Justice serves, not rules." The studio audience stood, clapping. Millions watching saw in Hawk's eyes a light some thought lost, integrity's glow. Papers ran editorials, hailing Silver Hawks as models for citizens who act when systems stay silent. Rivera, who risked all sending data, got promoted, becoming a face for federal investigation transparency reform. Samuel Carter returned to his small Henderson home, sitting mornings on the porch, smiling at passing Harley's distant roar. Malik, now a symbol for a new generation, spoke at Nevada schools, telling of his grandpa and bikers, who didn't fear storms, didn't fear sand, only feared forgetting what's right. In a final interview, Hawk was asked, "What changed after this?" He gazed where sunset glinted off garage bikes' chrome, answering slowly, "Not much. World still got good and bad, but now, good folks know they're not alone." He smiled, voice soft as wind. "And maybe sometimes justice doesn't wear a uniform. It wears leather, a helmet, and a heart that knows right." That image, an old soldier, a boy, silver-clad bikers on Hoover Dam at dusk, hung in the Washington Veterans Museum, captioned, "Honor Never Retires." Nevada's sunset fell like a molten curtain, bathing the desert around Hoover Dam in red. Wind carried the day's lingering heat, sweeping past stone plaques carved with veterans' names along the highway memorial. Hawk Turner stood silent before it, shadows stretching long on golden earth, leather jacket dusted with sand, sunlight glinting off the worn marine pin on his chest. In his hand was the silver pin Malik gave, symbol of courage, faith, a kept promise. He placed it on the wall, under an unknown soldier's name, hand trembling as metal met cold stone. "For those who never made it home," he whispered. Behind, slow footsteps sounded. Samuel Carter, leaning on his cane, approached, wind ruffling silver hair, dusk tinting his aged face with rare peace. He stopped beside Hawk, thin but firm hand on his shoulder. "Back then," he said softly, voice trembling but clear, "I fought for the flag. Today you fought for people." Hawk bowed his head, silent, but a corner of his mouth lifted, a small, weary, proud smile. They stood in quiet, hearing only wind and the distant Colorado's flow, sunlight glinting silver off mountain stone. From afar, Harley engines stirred. One, then two, then hundreds. The Silver Hawks and other clubs gathered, bikes stretching along the dam road, headlights chaining like moving stars in the desert. Bear raised a hand in salute. Wrench patted his saddle. Malik sat behind his mom, waving to Hawk and Grandpa. Samuel watched them, voice soft as wind. "You know, folks like them make me believe this country's still got hope." Hawk turned, eyes gleaming in dusk. "And as long as folks believe, justice won't die." He donned his helmet, fired up the Harley. The engine growled low, echoing off cliffs like the desert's heartbeat. Samuel stepped back, cane tilting in an old soldier's salute, slow, solemn. Hawk nodded, then twisted the throttle. The Harley surged forward, joining the moving line. Hundreds of bikers trailing, engines roaring in unison, dust clouding the sky. The last sunlight slid behind Hoover Dam's cliffs, bathing the convoy in golden fire. Wind whipped the small American flag on the lead bike's saddle, and as the riders rounded the final curve, their sound melded with a warm guitar strum from somewhere, notes lingering like a farewell to a momentous day. Hawk's voiceover rose, calm and steady as himself. Not all heroes wear uniforms. Some wear leather and carry the weight of forgotten wars. The words blended with wind, engines and hearts of those who rise when the world needs them. Cameras followed the bikers fading into distance, mere glints dissolving in desert red, Harley rumble softening, merging with slow, sad guitar, leaving a lasting echo, justice, honor and undying kindness. If you love stories of courage and justice, subscribe to the channel for more inspiring journeys of heroes on two wheels. Thank you for watching. See you on the next ride, where Harleys roar with freedom's heartbeat.